everybody, and very excited to welcome you to this brand new series on my channel called Wyrd Wonderings, in which I am interviewing and chatting with awesome people, creative people, magical people who are on their path, specifically in the Northern tradition, or with the runes, or with the Norse gods, or Celtic, you know, that kind of vibe. And my first guest today is one I'm so excited to have on the channel. Not only have I known her a very, very long time, but for the past 2 years, I've been immersed in her courses and on a rune journey with her. And it's been absolutely transformative and wonderful. And that's why I really wanted to share her wisdom with you if you haven't met her. So this is the fabulous Maggie from MaginRose.com and all the amazing courses. And if you haven't seen her stuff, all the links will be down below. But welcome, Maggie.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
Lovely to be here.
Hope that wasn't too much of an embarrassing introduction.
Not an embarrassing intro at all. It was a lovely intro. And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh yes, I'm looking very coursey and like very Viking-y and runic right now. I have a cat behind me as my own.
It's like on your shoulder though. You have a cat like
He's not on my shoulder. Some of people who come and see my lives will know that my other cat, who's asleep behind us, likes to come and perch on my shoulder during the lives. Thing.
We were just saying before the show that this only improves matters. So I think, in my opinion,
with us.
Yeah, Freya is with us. Freya's happy with all of this, I hope. We say that and then it suddenly just goes down. But I was thinking this before, like I haven't known you for a very long time, but it's in the past sort of couple of years that I've just really, you've had your website for a very long time, haven't you, as well?
I think it was 2010 when I set up Magin Rose.
And it's always been an amazing resource for runes. Like I think over the last 10 years, I have been kind of going, oh, what does this rune mean? I'm just going to go over to your website, just because we'll talk about this more in a minute, but the depth you go into is very unique, I think, on your website. But it's gone through a lot of changes over the years, haven't it? You've done a lot to it.
I have done
a lot.
Yes, it's one of those things that I always think, and then it will be finished. It never is, and it sort of goes through a rebirthing process, and a few of the pages are left unrebirthed while the rest is moving along.
Unpublished and unrebirthed.
Yeah, and the people who are diligent find those old pages that I put out there all that long time ago when I was a tiny baby witchlet. And now I'm just an old decrepit witchlet, but I think that my work has evolved over the time, and I've come to realize that it's less about informing and more about working with people. That's what I want to be doing. But I do try and make the site like engaging, and to recognize that the runes are so multi-sensory.
Yes,
you get so much. Here is a book about runes that I will read. But they're so visual, and and it's communicated through the voice, which is why I've added videos, and the YouTube channel, and some of my old videos are also ancient now as well, but they're all still there on my YouTube site. So yes, no,
it's brilliant, and we'll obviously go more into that. It's like I've kind of gone in the deep end as usual and not like introduced what you do, but I think that's one thing that's really lovely about as you say, there's lots of books about the runes, which are all good, but you encourage people to discover their own path with them through that multi-sensory and different ways of connecting with them, don't you?
I do, and I think that's because I think I was lucky, because I found the runes really early in my journey.
Let's talk about that. Let's get right to the beginning.
Journey. So I think it was actually my first ever book that explored anything vaguely esoteric. I was not brought up in an esoteric family. The only thing that I had working in my favor was that I was born on Harrow on the Hill, which is very sort of old. It was an Anglo-Saxon burial ground. The church there is over 900 years old, and before that it was a burial ground. And it's just this huge field that has had the local council and Harrow School, the posh Harrow School, competing over whose field it was for a long period of time, which meant that no one could do anything to it. Yay! And I lived at the bottom of that field, and I used to visit that. That was like, I could see it out of my bedroom window, and I used to go and sit on it, and I had a lot of experiences that I couldn't explain during my childhood. Which now I know, there is a stream that runs from the churchyard and the ancient burial site down underneath my parents' house and out the other side. So I was living on top of this stream. So it all made a lot of sense in retrospect. But I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, I could feel this call of the earth, that sacredness of the earth. And I didn't know what it meant. And I went to Hammock's bookshop. I don't even know if Hammock's even exists now. I don't know. Maybe they do. Shh. If they do, I apologize to them if they still do. But you know that there's that bookshelf in all sort of normal bookshops where it's like, well, the mind, body, spirit, everything.
Yes.
I don't know where to put. Let's put all the ecological stuff and all the self-development stuff and some
Kama Sutra,
all of that stuff. I put it all in this one shelf. So I went to the one shelf, and there was this book up on the shelf, and this and it was like a box set, and it was by Ralph Blum, who, you know, many people are like, oh dear Ralph, but he brought the runes.
He introduces people to the, he was my first rune book as well.
Yes, exactly. And when I saw this book, the only way I can describe it is I felt like there was an electric shock went through my whole body, and I was like, oh. And it felt to me as if what I was seeing in front of me was something that already existed and lived inside me. It's the only way I can describe it. I was recognizing a part of myself. Bought this book, practiced with the runes using Ralph Blum's methodology for years before I went on to find work like Edred Thorsen's work and Freya Aswyn's work and Kvedalf Gundersson's work and, you know, millions of other books. And I have chests and chests of rune books that I've collected over the years. But I just worked with them, and I went on to do lots of other things. So I trained, I'm a Wiccan initiate, and I'm trained in shamanic practice. I ran a shamanic training practice at one point, but I kept on circling back to the runes, and I got on and on and on and on. I remember doing a Wiccan circle, you know, it was like my first ever one that I did like on my own, you know, and I designed it, and I was like, oh, you know, tried to do a bit of Northern tradition stuff, and I went, well, this doesn't work. You know, I know that for some people it does, you know, they're like, yeah, we managed to come out. For me, no, I was like, it didn't resonate properly, but I was trying, you know, all the time I was trying. And I was also doing stuff that I didn't know how it was going to fit in. So I trained I was a wedding singer at one point, you know, I love using my voice.
But it's all entwined, isn't it?
It's all entwined, you know, all this use of the voice. And I did a lot of energetic healing work. I started because I got really, really ill myself. I had very severe arthritis in my early 20s, and I did a huge amount of healing work for myself. That's really how I started on a healing path. Mm-hmm. And then as I started delving deeper and deeper and finding more and more books about the runes, I was like, oh, they're healing energies as well. But I only knew that because I'd done, you know, I got my Reiki mastership and I'd done energy healing. I only knew that. And then when I started to sing them, I was like, oh, they're doing stuff to my body. Oh, I can use this as a doorway and I can go through it and I'll do all of these things, you know. So it was a real like piecing together of stuff. And basically I got to the point of going, I don't want anyone else to have to do that. Mm-hmm. You know? I don't want anybody else to not that it wasn't fun, it was fun, but
yeah.
I was just,
it's quite prohibitive though, isn't it? People wouldn't be confident enough to do it and they would just not find it.
Yes. And I think that was why I was given that electric shock. It was like that reminder over and over again. They are in you. You have to do this, you know? So
was Loki hanging out in the bookshop just going,
he was probably at that point, it was Odin sort of going, no, but Loki was behind him going, we've got this one already, Odin, don't worry.
I'm kind of visualizing, you know, there's joke shop kind of false handshake electric shock things. You shake that and you go like that and you go, I kind of imagine it being that kind of thing.
Absolutely, that's probably what happened. It probably was. I'm sure that it was Loki's electric buzzer thing going through. And they've just kept on popping up. You know, Odin has always been a massive, you know, massively important patron for me. But I know we wanted to talk about the Nornir as well. And they came up as such strong patrons for me in my healing work. So they were all, you know, it was like all roads lead back to runes. Everyone thinks it's Rome. No. It's Rome.
Yeah, they got it spelled it wrong. Rune, it's easy to make, you know.
Exactly. Well, it's just these Romans, you know, they came along.
Don't get me started on the Romans.
Right, they bring Latin in, they get rid of the Futhark.
And that's why we do have to do that piecing together, because there isn't, as much as people would love to think there's this kind of unbroken lineage of study and practice, it's just not existent, is it? So it's piecing together and searching, and you know, and you've done a lot of, obviously, a ridiculous amount of research. Ridiculous.
Geek research, geek rune research. Then, you know, I like to feel that I'm talking to a fellow geek, because I know, you know, you're, you know, one of the reasons I think that I was like, oh, I'm so excited when you came and we did work together, because I knew that you had the same sort of intuitive and like researching sort of intellectual. You wanted to bring the two of them together and say, yeah, I can be both at the same time.
I think that's what I really want to talk about a lot in this sort of these videos as well, is those two worlds and the importance of both of them, you know, because I'm not saying it's not lovely to just channel stuff, of course it is, but it sometimes for other people isn't that helpful, and you know, it can be, you know, kind of move forward, there needs to be a little bit of both, doesn't it? I'm sure your cat just fell off.
She did. That wasn't elegant, just so you know.
Because I didn't do it.
She turned her back on me now, and she's like, no, it wasn't me.
It's just, and I'm not saying it's not help with the channel stuff, but it, you know, to kind of preserve something or to kind of help other people find the path, it needs to be, I feel personally, you may all disagree, it's absolutely fine, that it helps you dig into those roots as well as allow it to come down from the leaves, you know. It's got to be both, hasn't it?
It does. And I, you know, that's why, well, you'll know that when I start out with people on my big program, my 1 year long program, we talk about different pathways, and the one that I talk about as being like the foundation pathway is the pathway of the sage. But, you know, we might come in and say, well, actually, you know, seership is my thing, but let's explore them all, and then you'll have such, you know, much stronger foundation stones to say, yeah, you know, when I get that sudden download of, oh, this is what this means, it's even more powerful when it connects in and you go, oh, and then I remember that the rune poem said this, and actually that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's so supportive, isn't it? It's so supportive. And it's just like with your course as well, there's all the different pathways, and if people are coming in from a very analytical point, it might push them to go out of that comfort zone as well. I don't want to be a seer, oh god, I want to read.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I do it.
That people pushed, have you seen people kind of go over from one side to the other, or like surprise themselves?
Definitely. By the end of Awakening, almost everyone says, well, I started out and I came in and, you know, and I was a healer and I was interested in the healing aspect, or I came in because I was interested, you know, I want to know more about my sort of ancestral roots. And without fail, you know, people at the end, they go, oh, you know, I thought this was my pathway, but I realized actually I'm a blend of all of those things, and I'm so much more confident in picking which one I need in the moment.
Yeah, which is wonderful thing. So let's go back to the electric shot from Loki. Or Odin.
I love that you're just like, it was Loki, that was it.
No, sorry, I mean, it was Odin, obviously. I could sense it was Odin, but I was like, I'm sure Loki was like,
oh yeah, I'm sure Loki was the instrument.
So you started learning the runes, and you started, you know, researching and bringing it all together. So obviously, how long did it take you before you felt like, right, I've got something here that I want to, I can actually put this together as a body of work?
That's a really good question. So although I started the website into that, I think I was doing other stuff. So some people, they say, you know, why is it that your website's called Magin Rose and your, you know, my birth name is actually Margaret Rose. And most people call me Maggie, you know, Maggie Rose, and Cunningham is my surname. And it was because I did some chapters in books for Avalonia Publishing. And at the time, I was working in the university sector. I've worked in universities for about 25 years. And I wanted to keep those two things quite separate, you know, because I was like, oh, they won't take me seriously if they know that I do this stuff. So for me, there was it wasn't just about knowledge. It wasn't just about sort of saying, you know, I'm bringing this knowledge in and I'm working on this, and who am I? You know, a lot of that comes back, you know, who am I? You look at, you know, particularly, I think Freya Aswin was just one of those. She was a real hero for me. And I was, no, it's just a personal and it's a private thing. But then there was also the identity piece around, you know, who am I and who am I going to present to the world? And I just thought, oh, my spirituality is private.
Yeah.
And there just came a point where it was clear that just wasn't the case. You know, this is no longer the case. You're supposed to do this. And I can't remember, to be honest, like the exact time that happened. I think it was, like I say, because I got sick when I was about 26 when I got arthritis, and I'd been practicing for a long time before that. You know, I remember sitting at university back when I was like 19, 20, and I had my Ralph Bloom set and I was practicing with the elements. So I was like, I'm going to put them in the flame and I'm going to blow on them and I'm going to bury them and I'm going to put them underwater, you know, everything. You're going to be this poor room set, you know, it's been through the I remember visiting friends like at Manchester University and doing rune readings for them, you know, and sort of bringing all this through. And, you know, doing rituals in my room at night, trying the shapes of the runes with my body, which I didn't actually know was a school of practice at the time. You know, I was just like doing all of this stuff. And I think that it was becoming so ill to the point that I couldn't work. And so I gave up that job. I was basically like, can't do this. What am I going to do with my life? So I went into business with the fabulous Kay Gillard, who was actually my teacher. She was my shamanic teacher. I went into business with her, and almost immediately the Norns took over. They were like, hello, we will be taking over your work, just so you're clear. So for example, one of the things that I had to learn with Kay was, as I had to, it was past life regression therapy. Total cynic. I was absolutely like, no, this life is hard enough. Why would I want to know about other ones? Are you insane? It was my basic premise, but I needed to do it for the training. And not only did I have a massively powerful past life experience the first time that I did it, it turned out that I'm actually really good at past life regression.
Wasn't there something about a dinosaur? Do we not talk about the dinosaur? I was going to flashback to
the first one. They let me in more gently than that the first time round. The first time round, I was a smith.
Okay.
That's which is, I quite like that. There's a bit of runic stuff going on there.
I can see that.
Some sacred smiths. First time I was a smith, but it was really powerful. It was really strong. It was a massive healing experience. And not only that, but the Norni were just like hanging out in the background going, it's absolutely fine for you to do this. And by the way, past lives do exist. Stop being a muppet, That's basically what they said. But we are going to be your
Muppet. I would love that.
Well, for me with the Nornia, they tend to sort of put stuff straight into my head rather than even speaking. They do that thing.
Yes.
My face is blank.
Yeah. You're a Muppet. Blank face, Muppet.
Yes. I don't even need to speak. You know what's coming here. And so they took over that work, and then schooled the goddess of of the future, that which must be, came, and she became my patron for cord cutting, because she was like, I'm not just about the future and seeing things come, I end things as well. So they basically just came and took it all over entirely. So by the end of that time, Kay and I were doing a lot of Northern tradition work together, and we were running circles and groups. We began a private seeth circle as well at that point. So I got really into working in seeth practice. And I was just like, I've just got to do this. It's something that I've got to carry on doing. So I founded Magin Rose then. So it's a long story.
That's a good story.
Basically how it happened. I was like, I'm going to share stuff about the runes and my own journey with them. And I made a fatal mistake.
Dun, dun, dun.
That would change the destiny of my life forever.
Oh.
So I was experimenting with Nigel Pennick's body of work that he did around runic astrology.
Yes.
Time when I first started Magin Rose, I was like, oh, how interesting that there are like 2-week periods that are dedicated to each rune. And that was all I knew at that point. I was like, oh, but that's a really nice structure, because then I can get to know each of the runes more deeply, and I can do my chanting of that rune's name, and I can do my how does it feel through my body, and I can do my looking at the rune poems again and meditating and using them as doorways and all of that stuff. I can do that through the 2-week period. How convenient. It was basically I started posting on this, and then I was like, it actually feels quite powerful, like I'm really connecting with this rune right now, much more than at other times in the year. And then I was like, oh, and isn't it interesting that Bacano was positioned at the spring equinox, the rune of birthing and the birch tree and newness, and Kinaz is at the autumn equinox, and it's all about all of these different colors and the smith and breaking stuff down. And I remember going into this more deeply and going, I'm really interested in runic astrology now, and starting to look at my birth runes, calculating all of the positions of all of the planets, in using Pennick's system, doing all of that. And I remember I went on a journey with this, and Frigg was there. I love Frigg and work with her greatly. And she looked me in the eye, and she said, are you sure you want to do this? God, I was so stupid. I should have gone, no, you're absolutely right, Frigg. No. Why? Why would I do this? This is an enormous lifetime of work. But I went, oh, yes, of course. No, it's absolutely fine. And she was like, here, take this coin then. And I had to put this coin in the well of Wyrd.
Yeah.
Oh.
I love the things we do as young witchlings and go,
that sounds great, that sounds fine, I'll absolutely do that, brilliant. And she was basically like, brilliant, now that we've done that, I'm now going to reveal to you how the halves of the Eastern York correspond to the astrological houses, and you're going to go into this, and you're going to start creating birth runes reports for people, which take hours of your life. And you're going to, and and it's amazing. I love that piece. I love that body of work, which is sort of separate. It's like a separate strand to Awakening, where you learn all of the runes, birth runes. You go and you go, each of these runes is my own personal initiator, taking me deeper and deeper into my heroic destiny. Great, brilliant. I really wanted to go into my heroic destiny.
Yeah, you like the idea of it until you realize that means you have to be heroic. We can't be that without a problem.
I know.
I always forget that.
I know. But I believe that is why the Northern tradition is so relevant at the moment, because I look at it and I just go, Marvel, Vikings, Ragnarok, all these amazing series and books, and American Gods, all of these things, it's all coming out, it's like bubbling up through into the collective consciousness right now. And I was obviously just a gullible channel. That's why I look at it now, and Loki going, back in the day. I think it is because heroes are needed right now.
Yeah.
Specifically earth-based people who are willing to combine the intellect and all the researchy stuff and all the science that we need, because we need science to help us.
We do.
And a deep spiritual connection to the collective consciousness, whatever you want to call it, to source divine. And that they're there going, we're going to push you.
Yeah.
You are the warriors of today. You may well not have swords. You may well have Microsoft Surface Pros.
That's worse.
It is worse in many ways. Yes, as you know, my Microsoft Surface Pro is not being that well behaved at the moment. But these are our tools that we have to care for and hone in just the same way as warriors do. That's what I'm telling myself. This is why you have to take care of your technology.
We might get arrested if we took a sword down to Morrison's,
Exactly.
In Glastonbury, possibly not, but
it's not the tool that we need in the moment, but that doesn't mean that what we're doing isn't heroic and isn't hard.
No, absolutely. And I think as well, like there's so much forgotten power, isn't there? And I think it causes so much depression and lost feeling and lost souls. And just that sense of finding that hero is just finding yourself and your own power and reclaiming that, even if that, and just doing that, it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it, to everybody? You don't have to go out and actually do anything. You might want to be fair. But just give it a go. But actually, I think just that sense of, like you said, that's why this whole thing has come up, even and I think for men particularly, I think as well, because I love it, because obviously you see all the Viking shops in town and men just feel proud. I just love it. I really enjoy that sense of, and it's not saying it's historically accurate. It's not saying there's a lot of bitching and moaning about it, but I think in essence it's help, and sometimes it can be very over macho and all that kind of thing, but why not? But I think it's just helping people find themselves again and finding their strength, and that might take them on a really powerful journey somewhere else.
I think you're right. I do, I do, when I'm not working in the spiritual, I think that all are spiritual, but for the way people see it, when I'm not working in the spiritual field, I work still in universities, but I work with men and women who are really struggling in that arena, who are exhausted, they're absolutely exhausted, and they're burning out, and they just need that, they need to take care of themselves. And I think of them in the same way as I do the people who I work with who come to my Hearthspace classes and Awakening, as heroes trying to make a difference in the world, and really struggling. And I think that conditioning, I have to do this, I have to show up this way, I have to look like this, I have to sound like this, so I have to have 1,000 million qualifications before anyone can hear what I've got to say, is so damaging.
I think it's like what this work, it sort of stokes the inner fire to allow the energy to come through. And people say that people are burnt out, people have got a lot of illnesses related to being burnt out as well, and but we're saying fire, but that inner fire that nurtures you and reminds you of your power and your passion and you, and it's very
We can do so much more when we're connected to our purpose and our passion, can't we, than when we're just trying to show up to prove ourselves to other people when we don't even know why we're trying to prove ourselves anymore.
Yeah. I know. I was saying as well, like with all kind of the Viking stuff we've got, and women just very much wanting to resonate with shield maidens and warriors as well. Yeah. And I think, and again, I'm not even talking about the historical Lardy, that's another story, but I think it's on a sort of an interesting soul level that it is that same energy, isn't it, of wanting to be powerful and to claim your power. So I always think, actually, if you put me in a battle, I'd be pretty rubbish. I'd be like, are you all right? I'd be just terrible. I wouldn't be able to. It's not what I want to do. But that it's not even about hurting anybody else. It's that sense of just feeling like you've got the power, and that's why women are attracted to that stereotype or that.
Yeah. I think it's one of the reasons why I suppose in some ways found myself going, I feel like a very unlikely person to be the person who's there saying, oh, here, come and discover your birth runes, come and go, make it so that the runes are in you, so you can feel them all the time. That's what, that's what I want to, they're in there, and any minute now you can open your mouth and then explode out, that's sort of where I want to go. And then I look at myself and I go, I look quite unlikely as that, as that type of person. But I was just like, no, we stand in our power as who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like, as I know, and you can feel it. I know you can feel it, and I know so many people who are watching this will be able to feel it. The difference between someone standing there trying to look like something that they think they should be, and someone standing there going, "I feel amazing."
Yeah.
Right now, whatever I just feel amazing. It doesn't matter.
No, it is absolutely, and it's that. Yeah, it's just. Yes, I have no good words for it, but yes. I'll just say
burning brightly from the inside.
It is, it's always the way. It is the most attractive and vibrant and magnetic you are, is when you're in that just space of alignment with yourself and either joy or just in something and really, or kind of connecting with the gods or dancing or whatever it is. You're just like, it doesn't matter if you have your makeup right or if you have the best outfit on or whatever. And then the people who sit there with the best outfits on, but just feel, you can see that their power lies out there, not in here. Yes. And that's the sort of a thing, isn't it?
That's exactly it, isn't it? It's like you're chasing something outside of you rather than going, I've connected to this and I'm going to bring it into the world because I believe in it. And I believe that there's still, we can still make a difference and, find that place. I spent last weekend connecting in with, it was like 450 women, and we were all together in this big room. Like, I haven't been in a group that big for so long.
In a real room?
In a real room.
Not a Zoom room.
It was amazing. And we did this piece where everyone was connecting in with like their vision and their purpose, and you go, and everything like that. It was, honestly, you could feel it in the space. And I was just like, there is nothing that we can't achieve from that place.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And the number of people who stood up and they were like, I see a green planet. And I see, my personal vision was, that I saw people from every different, like all spiritualities just coming together and going, the thing that unites us is our love for our planet and our respect for each other.
Yeah.
And regardless of what else is going on, that's there. And, that's where we come from.
Absolutely. I've always had that vision about that Jedi Council of everyone just, and it had, meditations of the British Museum. Have I mentioned that, everybody? I don't think I've mentioned it enough. But we had this one Zoom, and there was potentially, this could have been, when people, what the media will tell you, will tell you that, this wouldn't work. You had a couple of Muslims, you had a couple of witches, you had a couple of Jane.
I think it's just
how you say the plural of genuine, lovely. And then I think there was something else as well, and we were all like discussing, and it was just beautiful. We were all on the same page, and I, like you say, the vision everyone had and the story everyone had is that we're just following the same story in our own unique ways. It was just the most inspiring and beautiful thing, because just like you say, we're told that you'll never get on and that you're thinking that person's evil or blah. No, not at all. We were joined by this union of spirituality. Connecting to the earth is connecting to the earth. There's not that many, you might do different facets of it, but it was all linked. They were all connecting to the sun and the moon. It was just absolutely wonderful. And just kindness as well, and thought, it was just absolutely wonderful. And it was the most inspiring chat, just to go, this is potential. This is real. Like, these people are all over the world. They're all chatting, and we're all on the same page. I felt that was really empowering.
It is impact, and I think we need those reference experiences to tell us that that's possible. And, again, that's why I believe that, like destiny puts us in the path of certain things. I don't know if you know this, but in my last role in universities, one of the things that I did when I moved from one university where no one knew anything until the end, when I was like, oh, and I'm a tarot reader, and everyone was like, do a tarot cards for us. I said, oh, okay, interesting. So I went to my next job, I was like, I'm going to be more open about this. And I went and I did a talk for the chaplaincy team about pagan spirituality. And they were lovely, they were a bit like, oh, but it was fine. They were open, they were a bit worried, I think. They kept saying, are you going to sacrifice something? I was like, really? No, I'm less likely than you. I'm most people I know are vegetarian, but okay.
Yeah.
So it was great for sort of dispelling those myths, and we did that. But little did we know that 2 years after that, I was going to end up heading up that team. So I've line managed an imam.
Wow, amazing!
And the most beautiful thing that I saw, as well as in our meetings where we had like a nun, and we had the imam, and we had the rabbi, and it was come together as such lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they brought curiosity, that was all that was needed. We're just going to be curious, and we're not always going to get it, but we're going to be curious. And I think it was the rabbi and the imam left the meeting, and they were arm in arm, just like walking down the corridor together. And I was just like, that's what I want.
That is it. We love that. We've got off a tangent, but it's a good tangent.
It was a good tangent.
It's a very nice tangent.
Interspirituality is they have interdisciplinarity in universities.
Yes,
interspirituality as well.
I love that. Yeah. So only back into the runic astrology, because I know there'll be some naysayers saying,
yes, indeed.
I hear that people go, no, check out Maggie's page. It's blooming awesome. Like, I just, I love your Instagram when you're sharing the just, daily with the moon, the different, or Mani's chariot. And it is just amazing. But I know people just initially go, yeah, right.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. I was completely like this. I was just like, this is a convenient system that I'm going to work and use. But I think that there were sort of bits that came in for me that made me go, oh, until I was just at the point where I'm just going to go with it now and it's fine. I'm not pretending that the system that we work is an authentic system that was used, because we don't know. I think there is enough evidence to suggest that there was some form of reading of the stars and aligning it to fate in some description. We've got the story of Helgi the hero. I want to say it's like quite towards the end of the poetic Edda, and this idea of the Nornir fixing golden threads.
Yes, I love that.
The wall of the moon, and fixing his destiny in place. And I was like, well, if that's not some form of star reading, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. And it's very rare that Nornir are mentioned, isn't it? And that beautiful stanza is just so visual. I love the Edda's like, this happened, they died. And the spoilers as well, like the beginning of the chapter, Helgi dies now. I'll just say that.
Oh, I'm not bothered to read it now.
What will happen in this chapter? I think he'll live. Optimist.
Well, luckily now, obviously for me, I believe in past lives, and so it's fine because he'll go on. But
he does, doesn't he? As well, he's one with the Valkyrie that comes to him and meets him again, and
then you get confused because you're like, is this Helgi or is this his son? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
but that is all we've got, and I do think that was for a reason. So it's just like, we're not supposed to be here reconstructing a system that worked, however well it worked for our ancestors, because we've got our own problems.
We've got Microsoft Pro to deal with.
Exactly. And so all I've done is I looked at it and I went, you know what? Nigel Pennick's system was the one that felt the most powerful and the most workable to me. And I went on and I've worked with it. And I've worked with it for 13 years now, and it continues to astound me, how accurate it is. And the missing piece for me, which happened, I don't know how many years ago it happened for me now, was one of the things I used to do is I used to teach soul song, which is again with Kay, when people channel their soul song and they sing it, and sometimes it comes through and it's a note, and sometimes it's a few verses. And I had done my soul song and I had a chorus which had this word in it, which I had no idea where it came from, and I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, it's a river in Wales.
Wow.
Okay, fine. That's my soul song is about a river in Wales. Okay.
Amazing.
And I sang that for ages and ages and ages and ages. And then one day I was looking at my birth runes, my hero makers. So the sun, the moon, the earth, your ascendant, and your birth hour.
The one that I can never work out.
The one you can never work out. That's why I do the charts. That's the thing.
Because I'm like, you've given me maths.
But this is the thing. Why? This is why Frigg warned me, because maths is not my favorite thing. And I went, hold on a second. That's my birth runes. And the word spelt out my birth runes.
Wow. You've been to this river in Wales? Have you been there?
No, I haven't been there. Apparently, according to my parents, I was conceived in Wales, which I did not need to know at the age of 10 when they told me this. But, I was like, okay. So I thought maybe the river was about that. But I think it's more likely that it's about my birth runes. And once I saw that, I was just like, well, my little self didn't know my birth runes back when I did that power song.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I still get great results with people from it. People come.
It's amazing.
And they go, oh, suddenly I just feel, look, going back to what we were talking about, that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
This is who I am. And not that the birth runes are there. They don't do you will, eat cheese on Saturday. And, that's
likely.
They're much more like, the more you work with each rune,
the
deeper you feel into yourself, and the deeper you just go, I understand myself at a deep, deep level. And they all speak to each other and they form this web, just like we talked about with Helgi, this web of you.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm just there with the Norns and the golden threads, and it's so beautiful. No, exactly. It's those ones that you've always had some connection to or felt in your like I've always had an algae thing. I've got it tattooed on me accidentally, and then it's my moon, and it's so you're just going to go, and I've always loved algae. Like, what's not to love, really? Algae.
Well, absolutely. And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it, if you think about it? Yeah, that sort of hands up raised.
Yeah, I just love it. It feels very special. So, moon. So, and I think that it just resonates on such a deep level that when you kind of look at that, if I said it was Aquarius moon, I'd be like, oh yeah. But just to see that algae, now that I feel it in my body rather than some aspect that's far over there.
Yeah. And then I think that takes us back to, right, what we were talking about at the beginning, that just because of the way that a lot of knowledge is transmitted about the runes, which is through books, you see the symbols and you go, okay, it's a symbol, that's great. And if you're lucky, it might have some of the rune poems in there, although for some people they're like, well, now I'm even more confused, because obviously our ancestors loved to talk in riddle.
And quite depressing riddles as well.
And depressing riddles with many kennings, and we're not going to say the thing.
Yeah.
There's anything like the thing.
Which I love. But when you first come at it, you're just like,
So you get
Does he love me? Yes or no? The wolf done what?
Why has the wolf done that? And why is the person blind? And I don't get it. And this is so depressing. And we're all fodder for the earth. I get it. So I do understand that that's why a lot of the books don't include all the poems, because it's a bit like, it's a bit of a turn off to start with. But it doesn't give you that sense of them. And that's not how they would have been taught either, because people didn't have books back in the day. So it would have been done through story.
Yeah. Sensory.
Sensory story, and the use of the voice, and this slow bringing in of that wisdom, not in I read a book and I now know everything, but sort of years of work and years of feeling and knowing them deep inside. So that's why I started writing a book about the runes, and I think it's about 500 pages long. It's never going to be a book in that form, because I was just putting everything in there, and I can't even remember. Again, I think it was serendipity. That's right, I burnt out at work for the second time, so discovered that maybe like highly sensitive people find it quite difficult working in quite competitive environments. So I was like, what am I going to do with myself while I discover what I'm really going to do with myself? I'll do a course about the runes. That's what I'll do. I'll start to put that together. That'd be a really nice thing to do. It was the hardest year of my life. it was the most exhilarating and most fulfilling year of my life. I was like, because I was like, well, I'll start with, obviously we need to look at the poems and we need to do that. And we must have a power song. We must, get them. And I must do a meditation about how the runes go into your body. And there must, of course, be woven story about each rune. It's impossible not to have a full story session about the rune. And a presentation that goes to everyone's going to want to know the correspondences, so we'll do that as well. And it's okay because when I started with Feyu, I was like, oh, I love this first rune.
So nice.
Oh, it's brilliant, it's so nice. And then obviously the little gremlins, Loki, Odin in my head, going it's really nice that you're sharing the runes, but people want to know how to use them as well. So for every rune you also need to do a practical module as well. So we're going to do one on using the voice and one on the body and one on the this and one on the that. And I was like, and for the first 3 months, it was fine. But by the time I got to the end, when I was like 9 months in and I had been doing this, creating these things every 2 weeks, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of that.
It is amazing. It's so, it is so thorough. You don't get things like that very often, is it? It is so thorough. And most people wouldn't think about putting the stories in, would they? They wouldn't think about weaving your stories. It's something that's very unique to your practice and how you bring the runes to life. Yeah,
I think that that story work has become even more important to me. And I've been working with a lady called Kate Wolf, who's all about accessing voice. And I know that that's something that's going to continue to feature in my work more and more powerfully. But at the time, I was just like, I find it so much easier to access through story than I do through like a list of correspondences. It just made so much more sense to me. So I thought, well, I'll put them in. And now I would never teach in any other way. Yeah. It's got to have that story within it. And that's probably the piece that all of my students come back and say of every component, it's the bit that clicked for me and made me really go, oh, because suddenly all of these little snippets of information that I knew that are embedded in the fairy tales that I know, and this little sort of patchwork of knowledge that's already inside us suddenly made sense. It all came together and made sense. It does feel that with your stories, because it's working with the gods and the runes, but it's so timeless but also really relevant to us now, which again you can read a lot of the Eddas and feel a bit distant from. Yes. And certainly that's something that a lot of my students come in and they just go, I actually really want to access this work, but when I read the Eddas or I read the rune poems, I don't get anything from them. And I've found that most people find more after they've done awakening.
I think you can go back into the Eddas and go, now
that makes sense, because now I'm in the same mindset as the person who wrote that poem in the first place. Who had this huge landscape about the rune and was just drawing out a few pieces to put in their poem. Yeah, absolutely. And I always say this as well, like just how grateful that the Eddas exist as well, like how, and people do a lot of moaning about it, saying the Christian, I'm like, but we have them. If we didn't have them, we'd be up the creek without the paddle. Yeah, it's an amazing thing, isn't it, when you think about it, because people have all sorts of theories as to why they were created and why they were preserved, because you sort of think, why would they? Around 200 or 300 years after conversion as well, but somebody obviously thought that it was important to do that, and if they hadn't done that, we would have nothing. We have so much more to grab onto, and it's wonderful. Absolutely. So with your, we're talking about all the different aspects of the awakening to the runes, and I think that the songs, because your gift for song is spectacular, and I love listening to them. When your rune songs, they're so meditative, and that also helps you get into the space where you're open to receive. Love it. So you said you've done some wedding singing, you've done all this other stuff. Working with the voice is, I know it is spoken about, but you don't, apart from some bands that are bringing back, singing the runes, chanting them, which is amazing. It's something that people don't, they think about divining the runes, they think about maybe making sigils and stuff. Sigils and stuff, that's the official term. Sigils and stuff. And stuff. Yeah. But actually using the voice to heal and to magically, I'll let you go. Again, for me, it was something where it was only because I'd done the wedding singing, and then I went on to do healing voice work.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to get this right. So I was reading one of Edred Dawson's books, and he does this this exercise with the Issa rune. They call it Ys because they're using the Armanen system, which is slightly different to the Elder Futhark. And he recommends doing this exercise where you, I think it's something like ridiculous, like 93 days that you work on this. So I don't quote me on that number, but it's a ridiculous number of days. And you start off and you literally just face east. I want to say, as you stand and you face east and you make the shape of the Issa rune in your body, and you stand there, and that's what you do. And you get the hand position right, and you do all of that. And then you build slowly over time until you get to the point where you start to intone the E sound, just the E sound in your body, and vibrate in your body, the sort of I can't do it now because I'm a bit but I would, yeah. So I was doing that, and then you go up and you bring it up, and you go a bit higher, and then you go down like so. I'm just really making it not sound sexy or attractive at this point, but I promise you, when you're doing it properly, it's like it's full on. And I was like, oh my Lord, what's happening here? Because it was, I could feel the sound moving up and down my body because I spent 93 days, making this work. I did it, absolutely as Edred told me I needed to. And it was so powerful. And I was just like, why is no one telling me about this?
Mm-hmm.
Why is no one telling me about this? I must redress this immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started working with all of the runes doing that and looking at their seed sounds, because although it's called Issa, its seed sound is E.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing for all of them and starting to weave in, different ones. So Theou and Uruz together. I was like, yeah, it was a whole new realm of rune work for me that now, if I go on a journey to work with a rune, I'm never going to just, use it as a doorway. Why would I do that when I can then sing and feel it in my body and move through in that way? And I think that that's an underdeveloped area of rune practice when you think about Galdra.
Yeah.
That we talk about spell work.
Yeah.
But we don't look at voice work and the power of sound.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, it's spectacular and just empowering, isn't it, as well, just for your own daily energy. Just I think if you're in a bad mood or you're feeling a bit low, and just chanting Suelo is just it brings the sunlight into you, doesn't it? It just brings that sunshine back in. It does.
And so many people say, I started with my Suelo rune, and then, and I was feeling it moving backwards and forwards in such a different way to Issa, which is moving up and down. The sound was moving through my body, and it was, that's why Suelo is so good for working with the chakras, even though, I'm not suggesting that the systems are linked in any way.
And you don't like the crossing the streams, do you?
I am, yeah, it offends my my research side. I'm like,
don't cross the stream,
hurting me. But energy centers, I get that, and I get that Suelo is moving stuff, so it needs to. And then they're like, people are like, and then I started dancing, and I'm like, yep, you're going to do that with Suelo. You're not going to do it with Issa. Issa is like here in stillness and power. I am in the moment, and Suelo is all about I'm moving, and I'm shifting, and I'm changing, and you can feel it when you start working with the sound as well. It encourages everything else flow so much more easily when you work with the sound. Because at the end of the day, that is, Odin, I believe, from the tale, he falls down from the world tree, he does all his waiting, his 9 days and his 9 nights, and he falls down, and then he lets out this roar, and it's this wave of sound.
Yes.
Birthing the runes, into existence.
Yeah. And it is, I think that's such a, as you say, an underexplored part. And maybe people don't read that and they just go, it used to be first sound. They don't focus on that so much, do they? That is what it says, basically. And I think it's such a, and I think Maria Philhag was saying something around that Thor and these the things that it translates as the Big Bang or a sound wave, like a lot about they all it's these things ignored bits, like he did this, it was a noise. No, it's a sound wave, and all life came forth from this sound wave. I'm like, there's so much in there with that just goes over a lot of people's heads, or they don't think about it in that way.
Well, they see it as he scooped them up, and so it's like, we had rune stones, he scooped them out, and I think people see that they don't recognize the sound wave bit. But I do one of the things that I like to do with students, and that we do at the live parts of awakening, we do a lot, in the live circles, is I like to do witnessing journeys where we go and we witness a particular event, and it's often quite a small event. And one of the ones that is so powerful to go is to ask Odin first, obviously, and then go and do that witnessing. And invariably people come back and they go, oh, at that moment, when I just felt this like wave of energy flowing over my body, it just came straight through me, and it just felt like the whole world had changed.
That meditation is intense, that you do in the best possible way. Like, it is, you can go, yeah, I know, done lots of journeys, like, yeah. Like, oh my God. Like, it is really visceral, really visceral.
They are really visceral. And I think that it's that sense of asking the deity for, we'd like to come on this witnessing journey to be in that moment, to experience it, and then allowing yourself to deepen into that, and trusting that it will come, and people will get what they need to get in that moment. But there are moments like that, throughout the Eddas, even though we know that they're not like we say, with all the caveats in place, there are still moments of exquisite beauty and wisdom and knowledge if we take the time.
Absolutely. And just to kind of contemplate them as well. Like, some things get really rushed over, but you go, hold the phone, what just happened there? And they move on quite quickly, and it's like, but the fact is, it was a guy who was not pagan at that point, officially anyway, put that in there. And so it's not like gone into great deep, but it's in there, and you can go, oh, I'm going to feel into that, or look into that a bit more. And it's, and I guess you can easily read over them for the more, bloodthirsty, battle-y, raw bits. Yes. But there's a lot of that in there as well, of course. So
there is.
But with the the Odin's in the Harmals of instruction about, it's talking about, do you know how to? How did that affect you when you were reading that, and you're thinking, okay, how am I going to work with his words about the runes in the Harmals?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think through reading that piece over and over again and recognizing that it was an invitation. I don't think it is. I don't see it as a
threat.
No, never do. And I know that for some people, they read that and they go, "Oh, I'm never going to be qualified to do it. I'm never going to be able to do it." And which is what we've been conditioned to think that way, haven't we? That I'm not going to pass my GCSEs.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be able to read the runes.
We've been brought up with a kind of a god that might tell you off.
Yes. Very much so.
The guilt, like, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person, I can't do it. Like, he just asked you, do you know how to do it? That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's remembering that he's saying, do you know how to? Which I always think of as an invitation. I'm not suggesting that, you go and do your rune readings and disregard all of those things, because he does give some, some lovely examples of what happens when you just blasé, I'm going to just use that rune.
I might heal this person with this bind rune I've made. Why have they got iller? Huh?
Oops. Yeah, exactly. And those are there for a reason, aren't they? They are there for a reason. But we get to that point where I think as a beginner starting with the runes tend to be quite kind to us when we first start out, because they recognize that we're there to learn. And if Odin likes anyone, it's people who open up to learning.
So
he is going to be there for that. I think where the warnings come in are really about laziness at the end of the day. You're going to learn a little bit, and then you're going to stop and think that you know it all.
Oh, it's the worst.
Disgusting. Certainly from Odin's perspective, it's disgusting. So it's recognizing you're always on a learning journey, and that we're always sort of pushing those boundaries. And the dangerous bit is just that next step into the next, the next area of growth. And that's the bit that you always take as being I'm going to ask for some guidance now, and I'm going to experiment in this way first, and I'm still going to follow all of my creating sacred space and grounding myself properly, and all of those things that you knew when you started, and then suddenly people go, I don't really need that. Be fine.
Oh, we get bitten. I mean, I'm only saying it because we've all done it. Like,
we've all done it.
I'm saying it, and it is just, and it's just the basics that do protect you, don't they? And we kind of think it's always the basics, the grounding, that is the bit that keeps you on track.
Yeah. And I think it's remembering I'm in we were talking about this earlier when we had that idea of the growth zone. I'm in my growth zone now.
Yeah.
And therefore the basics are important.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think with the runes as well, because they're so elusive and then so strong, and they just slip out of your hand, they come back in, and they, you kind of, I just lie in bed and I think about them, and I think, but they're just lines. But they're not just like, you know what I mean? You kind of have that kind of total mind going, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. And like, you go, but realistically, you have all these feelings for it, for just lines. And your brain's just kind of going, this is just mind-blowing, because you can look at it as a reduced to just some marks, but it actually, the body of energy and feeling behind it is just, it's everything.
It is everything. And it's funny because it sort of gets to the point where I can't even remember what it feels like to look at them and think of them as like flat symbols on a page.
Yeah. So sometimes you just do that and just go, oh.
What just happened there? What just happened there? I don't understand it. But yeah, they become like friends is too strong a word, because they've got their own little agendas, heroic destiny. Yep. Friends are sometimes like, no, it's okay, don't worry about your heroic destiny, let's just have a pint,
The
runes don't tend to do that, do they? They tend to be like, no, back to the heroic destiny.
Exactly. But friends are more like, oh, she's doing her heroic destiny thing again. I'll get the tissues out when she comes back and she's crying.
But there's certainly where there's a relationship, I think. With each other.
Absolutely. Like, to the Norns, I'm just sort of staring at the Norns, and they're kind of going, hello, excuse me, you started talking about us.
What?
Well, it is hard, isn't it, with the Norns, because there's that amazing book that you've got as well about the Norns. I can't remember who wrote it. Beck Pedersen. The book about the Norns. You said you had it as well, I think.
Oh, now you're going to annoy me. Yes, I do. No, it's gone. I'm not going to pretend.
Hold on, here we go. Beck Pedersen, check me out for my bibliography I wrote last week.
That is impressive. Oh, yeah, I love that book. I love it.
I love it. And isn't it so lovely there's actually a book about the Norns, because you think about them a lot, but you kind of go through the text and you just go, snippet, but they're almost like this shadow, or this the fabric that holds it all together. So you always feel them, but there's very little things you can go, aha, that's what this one does.
Yeah.
Apart from the snippets about them being their name meanings and what that means. But this book is brilliant. Yeah, we love this book.
It's a really good book. I would definitely recommend it. And we're lucky in many ways that we've got. We now have things that other people didn't. 50 years ago, nothing. So difficult to find anything, and now we have got this wealth of books that blend. Some which are more academically. This is because I love the etymology. I love reading about, what's the root, and taking it all the back and looking at the Proto-Germanic, because obviously, I work with the Elderfutharks, which is the sort of oldest of them, which, going back to the sounds, people say, well, how do you know how to pronounce them with the sounds? It's like, well, we just don't. It's entirely reconstructed by linguists based on how modern languages are pronounced now.
But it works.
And it's all brilliant. And to have that blend of research and so many people now sharing their experiences, such a blessing and such a gift.
Absolutely.
And the Norn era, they're dudes, aren't they?
They're but also I really felt like, so I made since through working through one of Maggie's courses, I've been doing my little fashion range with the runes and everything like that. And then I made my Nornir t-shirt dress, and I wore it, and I fractured my ankle again, because I hadn't done the healing I was meant to do when last year I fractured my ankle. Not the healing on my ankle, a little bit of that, but more the stuff that came up then as well. I've been running away from for a year, and they were like, you're gonna wear a dress, we're gonna get you down on the floor.
Yeah, they are harsh, aren't
That's
they?
what I was about to say. That's my way of saying it's not a fluffy, like it was like, and I knew it because I'd worn the dress. I was like, put it on, I went, are you sure, Laura? I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, boom, down. And I didn't chip anything. I just went down and refractured the same wound. And it was just, but I was sort of sat down, because it makes you sit down when you fracture your ankle. And I was just like, well, yeah, I know on the inner level, I've just been running away from stuff, and I didn't want to sit with it. And now I have to sit with it because I can't bloody move. So,
yes. And they will use any, I know we've talked about the birth runes, but I think about it, and I think they will use whatever vehicle is available to get you back on track.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? No, particularly if you have said, and I've made a connection with them, which I know that you have, and with, that sense in which you give permission.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really want to make a contribution. I really want to do something. And then they're like, right, prod, get the pointy stick. Prod.
They're kind of going, what is she doing?
Yeah, she's wearing the dress. Come on now, we can get her now. Which is the same with the birth rooms. They're getting their birth rooms done now. This is the moment.
Yeah.
No. When I do one of the early meditations that I do with people about going to the Well of Wyrd,
which I love.
I love going to the Well of Wyrd. I always do the health and safety talk before we go, which is basically like,
don't drink.
Oh, Laura, don't even put that in people's mind. What's wrong with you, woman? I don't even go as far as don't drink. I'm like, don't touch.
Oh.
Don't touch the waters.
No.
Not put your feet in the waters. Do not put your hands in the waters. Not even one tiny little fingernail in those waters, because you're inviting the flow of Wyrd to come and sort you out. And I know full well that a lot of my students go away and they go and they dip their little toe in those waters, but not on my watch.
Yeah, so I'm not responsible for what happens.
I'm not responsible for what happens here. If you decide that you are ready to claim your destiny by dipping your toes into the Well of Wyrd, or by taking a full swim in the case of some people, and I'm not saying that I haven't done it. I have, obviously I have done it. But there's an invitation. And again, I think that's a really important part that I've experienced with the Norse deities, is that sense of like negotiation and contracting.
Yeah.
They take it incredibly seriously. And if you say no, they will go, okay then.
Yeah, that's cool.
And if you say yes, they will go, yes.
Yes. I told you I wrote this, the long, massive painting of Odin that's been going on forever. The massive, huge painting of Odin. It is. And it's just he's just
really
nice
painter. On my new back wall, don't you think?
I think he does go there quite well.
In case people are wondering, why am I in this blank room? I'm repainting.
Yes. It's like kind of austere kind of.
It's a really austere room. Yes.
It's nice. The cat's making it not austere.
Yes. She's doing a great job.
But I was thinking that with that painting, that I did look, I was clearing through my art desk and I found this notebook, and I was like, going to put it away, and this voice went, look at the notebook. With this paint, I was like, all right, I'm looking at the notebook. With the painting behind me, Odin just going, look at the note. I was all right. And then I found what I'd written 10 years ago, if not longer, 10 years ago, saying, I promise to paint Odin. Had I painted Odin? I had totally forgotten. So that when I did got to this point of painting him, it had to be the biggest canvas that I could possibly fit in my house. It had to take a long time and all that. But I don't think they mind how long it takes in that way, as long as it happens. It's just like, in fact, it probably was a bit in trouble that I had forgotten, but it was the fact that it came at the right time, and it was about, you're going to do it like 10 years, whatever, but just do it and do it good. But I totally forgot I'd done that. And I was like, oh, that's why it's just blooming epic.
Yeah. And they don't, time is really interesting for them, because we think, oh no, I've said that I'm going to do this. And for some of them, I honestly think that they're like, you made that promise 3 lifetimes ago, and I've just come here to remind you that it's still on the to-do list and I haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Whereas we think it's going to be done next week.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? We make all these promises and they will happen. I mean, they should happen. I mean, if they're in your pattern, they should happen. But on our human, and it's just, we must create, we must produce, we feel like if I don't do it in this time period, and actually that's not always the best. We were talking about today, weren't we, in the sort of the divine timing of things, about when they grow, when projects come in, and being aware of when, like we said the other day, like when it's our resistance, or when it's actually just not quite the right time to push it forward.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't expect it to be such a huge part of awakening. But when we do our wisdom working circles, I started right from the beginning doing like it's a very small like mini symbol, right? At the end of every circle,
which I love.
It's brilliant. I'm like, why did I ever think that I shouldn't have included this? This is ridiculous, because it's so important. And it is about trusting yourself, and like building that sense of integrity and luck, and recognizing that it's not about saying, I'm going to do this massive thing. It's about saying, I'm going to do something and I'm going to do it. Whatever it is, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to fulfill it, and I'm going to come back to the next circle and I will have done it. And it's so powerful energetically for ourselves to do that, because that makes us more capable of doing the bigger things, because we start to believe in ourselves.
Yeah, it's also, if you're lying to yourself, you've got no good not it's lying, but you kind of feel like it is, isn't it? You say, oh yeah, I do that, and you don't. It feels like it's a betrayal in some way, self-betrayal, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and it's because we have such huge to-do lists now. Our culture is just so busy that it's so easy to forget something that actually this was really important to me.
Yeah.
Every reason I didn't do it because this massive list of stuff that I need to buy, or whatever it is, gets in the way, and then I don't do it. And it was actually like, if you just choose one thing, and then next month and you've done it and you focus on that, everything else becomes easier.
That nice accountability as well, that you're kind of witnessing it, and no one's going, you didn't do it, did you? But it's the fact that it's all held and witnessed is lovely. Yeah,
it's really and again, we've talked about this before in circles when people have said, well, I meant to do it and then it didn't happen, and now, oh my god, have I let down the rest of the circle? And for me, it's a bit like, no, it's about going back and saying I didn't do it. Rather than going, oh, now I can't face the gods ever again.
And then push it all down. It becomes this heaviness,
doesn't it? Didn't happen, and I'm totally untrustworthy, and all of these things. And it's just going and saying, no, I'm going back into that sacred space, and I'm going to be witnessed, and I'm going to say, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm doing instead, or this is what I'm going to do to fix that. So it's that taking responsibility, isn't it? Which the northern gods like us to take responsibility.
Appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. Yes. So you're tell us about your courses a bit more then. What are the things that are coming up? So you're running Awakening again, so Awakening to the Runes.
Yes. So Awakening to the Runes runs every year, and it starts in the half month of Fayu. So June the 26th is when we're officially launching, but it's open now because we have some preparatory modules and people get to know each other and all of those things. So that's happening at the moment. A year-long in-depth program with the runes.
You have it's just a terrible word, but you have all that wisdom that it's there for life, and you can revisit it. Like I did it a couple of years ago, and I still go back and just go, oh yes, oh my god, you give a lot.
I do give a lot, and that was one of the things that I knew was would be the case, is that as long as Magin Rose is in existence, people will still be able to access all the program materials, so that they get what they need that first time round. And I've had some people who have done the course twice. I've got some people who have done like mastery, which is like sort of the next level program, which I love doing as well, sort of deepen it. But if you played with your runes and you're feeling like, oh, this is what I really want to get to know them, that's what I would do. I would do Awakening. I have I'm running a Drazzle's Path, which is my shamanic program, for the first time in years.
Very exciting.
Which I'm so excited about. It's going to be brilliant. It's the first time I'm doing it online, because I used to do it all in person. So that's coming in August. There's only a tiny number of places left for that. But so if anyone is interested, that's coming up too. The birth runes is there, the work is there, so anyone can come and they can have that done. And I'm just finishing creating my birth runes program with my first group at the moment, which they are such a fabulous group. They're so good. And again, it's a long journey. And again, I've changed it now so that it's going to be much more that once you're in that space, you continue to be supported in the space. So it's like, I've decided to take this journey, and I want to work with my birth runes for the rest of my life. So now I want to do that. So that's really exciting. And for people who are just like, I just want to connect, and I want to get that, opportunity to do rune readings and to have some like sacred story in my life and do some embodiment and meditation. I've got the Hearth Space, which is open all of the time to people. So Hearth Space is free, and then there are classes that you can join that are paid, but it's not very much at all. Because
no, not at all. And those stories, they are so rich. I've done some paintings just from the stories you've told on the Hearth Space, and they're just so deep that it stirs a lot. We did
a story with Tyr today, which was, I was just a bit like, obviously he's supposed to be a god of victory, and he's normally quite quiet whenever I've gone to see him. No, he had so much to say. I was just like, this is supposed to be a short story, but it was like an epic journey. From the very beginning of time through to the end, from Tyr's perspective. It was amazing. I'm still processing quite a lot of that, and the people in the group were also like, wow, I've got a lot to take away from this. So it's a great time, and just go, I don't really know what this is. I want to come in and sort of
and just experience it. I love the fact that like the one that's quiet for ages, and when they do speak, woof.
Honestly, I couldn't make him stop. I was just like,
go now.
Right now. And and we had Hela spoke at one point, and the Fenris Wolf spoke at one point, and Jormungand, the World Serpent, spoke, and Angra Border come and had her say as well. And I was just like, okay. But it was great. It was lovely, and it is actually one of the things that I enjoy personally doing.
Yeah, I didn't ruin it by playing that song to you, did I?
Oh, the Eurovision song.
The Norwegian Eurovision song.
No, you didn't. That is one of the most hilarious things.
The Wolf Banana.
Wolf Banana. I don't know if you know this, but I'm an intense Eurovision fan, and I have been all of my life. I used to have Eurovision parties when I was young.
I've never been to a Eurovision party. I feel like I've missed out on something.
Let's go to a Eurovision party. They're terrible and yet fun. But it was around the time of my birthday, so I was always like, I'm going to do it for my birthday. So I really, really love Eurovision, and you've just made my day, because I don't now need to go and watch the 30 billion other songs, because I now know I'm.
No, you know the winner. You know the Banana Wolf. I felt like he's really good at that song. Just like I was just feeling a bit anxious. I was like, not anymore. How can you be anxious? There's a banana wolf.
I know.
That's not the name of the song, but
And I don't know whether Tyr was just like, either, look, I'm a god of truth and victory, and you cannot distract me with a banana, or whether he was like, I embrace the banana song because I am a god of such immense power, and my divine nature is so great. But either way, he was fine. He was fine. He still shared the story with me. It was all fine.
And I've seen some epic bands this week. I went to see Tool, but what is in my head? The blooming Banana Wolf song. I'm just like,
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is that allowed? I just don't know if it's allowed in your interview.
Anything's allowed.
So I know that you're looking to do, you're going to be doing more of these on Northern tradition. But I just wanted to know, because you have such a wealth of knowledge, and your artistic, just what comes out of you is so amazing. How did you start in your Northern tradition path?
That is it's interesting. Well, put not to anybody else. I love when I say it's interesting, because people are going, it's not really interesting, Laura. Because I mean, I was in a magical group, for a long time ago, which is very much connected to Freya and Northern tradition, and I was a bit like, no. I don't know. I was just a bit like, no. I think Freya was just like, but I was like, I wasn't anti. It was not ready. I think it's timing. It's always divine timing, isn't it? Yes. And I've always had friends in Norway. I've always loved being in Scandinavia. Not always, but since an adult. And but then, why did it come? It just came in like a big wave. I think just before lockdown, actually, 2019, 2020. Like, it's always been there. I've always done a little, and I've done some stuff with the runes, and I've done some stuff with Freya, and I've painted her, and I've been in groups where we've done rituals for her, and I've always been like, she's always been there, but it's never been a passion on my side so much until about 2019 to 2020. And it was actually through music. That's what it was. It was through music. It was through listening to for Runic and listening to the old songs. It just hit me there. I went, I know this. I feel this. And it was also probably the right time. And I was at the Jorvik festival in February before lockdown, and it was like, which was lovely, but and every aspect of it was lovely. Like we were saying earlier, like there's a very fashiony side to this, which is also lovely. I'm embracing of everything. But Freya came in, literally walked through the room and went, I can't remember the word. I know the feeling, but it was more like, remember what the roots of this is. I said that and walked off, and I went, oh yeah, and then I just was obsessively geeking. And then it kind of coincided that we had our first lockdown, that I was doing these courses of like the more research side of it, and I never do anything by halves, and I thought I'd just do an MA in it.
Yeah, why not?
And then I started working with you at a similar time, going into the runes, and they've always been there, but now you're in retrospect, you can see they were just there, but not just waiting for me to kind of, or the right time, I won't say maturity because that would be a lie, but the right time to kind of be open to it. And so yeah, it's always been there, but I've only been really interested since about 2019 of really going into this a lot deeper. And when I was doing the studying, it's like looking at the runes. It's a hard thing to explain why you're doing it, but it's that feeling of this path that is right and yours. And I think it's part of what we were saying about bringing that magic and that intellectual together, because they've been two separate worlds. And I think with things like music, it bridges, doesn't it? It bridges the two sides. But Yeah, they've always been there, but I just probably hadn't been listening hard enough. Like 10 years ago, I'll paint you.
La la la. Some point that will happen.
He's like, give me the bloody biggest canvas you've got.
I want your wall now.
So yes.
Oh, thank you. Oh no, that's fascinating. You know what else is fascinating is when you said that I had a long, like what I call like a dry period with the runes, which I was just like, this is bizarre. You know, I've worked with them for so long, and then at these years, and it was partially because I had children, and children tend to sort of like leech your energy, which is really annoying, but they do. And you know, so that was coming through, but at the same time, it did feel as if it came through. And for me, it was January 2020 when it just sort of went bam, you know, and you need to do this work. And I went up and I looked up the astrological movements of the planets, because obviously that's what you do, you know, in the runic wheel. And I discovered the Hela's chariots movement, which I talk about loads, where Hela moved into Perthrow, you know, the rune of weird and song and music and all of this stuff going on. And I was just like, you know, and everything went wrong at that point, didn't it? It was a bit like, you know, and I imagine like Hela just going, I'm just going to send back up all of that stuff that's been pouring down here. Now it's coming back up with the Perthrow, you know. And I felt it so strongly.
Ted the Viking gave me this as a present.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I just walked into the shop and I said, oh my God. And I looked at him, I thought, this reach was there. And he was just like, you should go and see Ted the Viking if you're in Glastonbury.
You must.
And he went, do you want it? And I went, what? He was like, yeah, you can have it. And I was like, okay. Because he really spoke to me. And it's just, but I never know where to put it.
You have to find the right place, don't you?
And she wants to be on the floor a lot. Like she wants to be on the floor. She doesn't like being up on the wall. Yeah. And it's almost like I don't want it energy-wise. You know, it's find the right place energy-wise for it. So she kind of moves around a bit on the floor. But sorry, I just distracted because she was looking at me when you talked about Helen.
Yeah, she keeps popping up for me everywhere. I was a bit like, you know, I know that I've been doing an apprenticeship with her. Odin was like, you're going, no, I think you know already. You know, he was like, yeah, you're going to go do your apprenticeship with Hela. And I was a bit like, is it finished yet? I'm not sure if it's finished yet. And as I was thinking that, I was like, you know, I will get back to it. And I've been reading How to Train Your Dragon.
Amazing.
To my son. And
I picked up the to my son.
To my son. Obviously, I'm enjoying it, let's all be honest. And I opened up the chapter, and in this chapter, for some unknown reason, the main character turns, half of his body is stung, and he turns purple on one half of his body, and he remains like living and normal looking on the other side of his body. And this, he looks like this for a long time. Yeah. And there is no explanation given for why he needs to be walking around like the living embodiment of Hela, other than obviously Cressida Crowell, I think that's her name, isn't it? Must have thought, well, Maggie's questioning whether she needs to continue her apprenticeship with Hela, and at however many years in the future, when I'm writing this book, she will need to be spurred on to say, no, your work is not finished with me. And there are you know, sort of saying, like, here she is. Yeah. Because I've got Ted's, I've got a big Odin's raven that I think might go on this back wall.
Oh yeah.
And my hammer. I also got.
Oh, I love that hammer. That was
the blessing hammer. You know, this is what I mean. The room will not look like this forever. But maybe I need something. Maybe.
It's finding the right place for it is interesting with that, isn't it? It's an interesting. But you know, as it reminded me, you sort of saying about how you got into this, and I was just thinking as well about 10 years ago, I was about Maria Philhug. She did a Lady the Labyrinth YouTube channel, and she did like the Seeds of Yggdrasil videos, and I just watched them, and she was just going through all the Norse stories and going behind the meanings, and I just was like, yes. So I think that was, and I just was absorbing that for about 10 years ago. So I guess, you know, you think about it, logically, it has always, well, not always, but for the last 10 years or so or more, been building up in the background as a sort of a strength, and then suddenly go, I'm going to give all my energy to this right now, and they're like, yep, about time, love.
We've been sowing those seeds for a long time now. It's all in the roots.
Yes.
That's probably what they were saying to each other. It's all in the roots. Don't worry, at some point she's going to cotton on.
I bet they question, like, I don't think she's cottoning on, which is why I've got a drum that Sean made for me, that I painted a wolf on it, and it's called Loki. And Loki literally throws himself off the wall sometimes. He literally catapults himself across the room. Or I was talking to someone, he goes quiet, and he goes, he'll just start creaking. I'm like, nothing has happened. The room temperature hasn't. He's a good old chat. I'm like, I was like, what?
Oh, it's well, I can't see anything, because anyone who's anyone who's ever worked with me, and most of my witchy friends will tell you that wherever I go, I leave people with like little Loki altars and, you know, something going on with Odin, like in my wake.
Yeah, this is a good wake to have.
Just like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me. Nothing at all. As you were speaking, Hella was saying to me, I think, Maggie, what you should do is to paint me on your floor. If you need to, you can always put a carpet over the top. You know, other people won't know. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to stand on top of a painting of you while I'm doing all of my work.
I know, she's going, she's on the floor. She's actually by my weights at the moment. She doesn't like being by my weights. It's like, but where else are we going to go? It's like...
Can you imagine? So I'm just putting that out there now. You know, when I said that the Norse gods allow you to say no, I'm saying no.
Yeah, not on the floor. Imagine like you want to sell the house, and they're going to come on and go, what is, oh, yeah.
Oh, well, in my last house, I did bless some eggs, and I put them in the rafters when we had some work done, and they're still in there to this day, I believe. So, you know, you can, when the Norse gods start to say to me, yes, we wish to be embedded into your walls, then I'll know I'm in trouble.
What have we done?
What have we done? Yes, let's stop. Yes,
let's
putting ideas in people's minds.
Yeah, well, you know, people might have the, you know, they want to do it. It is a great idea. I'm glad it's not me that just go thinking, why does she not want to go anywhere? I just on the floor. I feel part of me feels disrespectful, but that's because we've been told to think that down is not as good as up, kind of thing. So you're going to feel like, oh, we should put paintings up there, but actually she's happy on the floor. She likes being on the floor.
She would, yeah, and I can see why she would.
I think she's happy. I'm like, but thank you so much, Liz. It's been
my pleasure.
Epic. I'd ramble on for ages, but I'm aware that it is time has passed.
It has, and it has been so lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I feel
so I'm going to tell everybody about. Well, I'll put your link for the website below, and the Awakening is starting in June, and I highly recommend it.
Starting in June, and I'm doing some free class one almost every week now for people who want to come along and learn a little bit more about me. So I'll pop those over to you, so you've got some links that people would like.
Wonderful. Absolutely fabulous. So, and go, you know, if you're just curious about the runes, go and check out maginrose.com, because you give away so much for free. Like there's so much information there to start off with. If you don't know about the runes, you can just go and find a little bit about them and go and work out if it's for you or not, and if you feel drawn to it. And you know, if you haven't really explored them before, just go and check it out and see, and the meditations, and see if it works for you. And if it does, I would highly recommend to go further, because it's just a wonderful journey. Sorry, yeah, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Yay! So thank you, and Kitty, for spending this time with me. And I'll see you again really soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.